Yes, we're streaming. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our general meeting. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our officers. Welcome to lonely Merlene up there on her own today. That might change later on. But and welcome to all our live streamers who have joined us this afternoon via our streaming. Councillors, we've got a reasonably solid agenda there, and bearing in mind that obviously this very important time of the year, Easter, our Sunflower Festival is on, and our council welcome to our Canadian visitors is tonight at the Capricornian restaurant. So I think that starts about, we shouldn't be careful here, I think 6:30, but I think 6 or 6:30, let's at least be 6:30 to 7, I think I would have been early then. But that's on this evening as a welcome to our guests, and obviously a lot of activities for the next few days, and certainly into the Easter weekend. So we're looking forward to that. Councillors will also be aware that there's a little presentation from our GM Daniel, just in relation to his Clare visit to Japan. We're actually going to certainly not use it as an agenda item, but certainly slide it into the presentation that we have on the agenda is 12.4 around our delegation to Shinsegae, our sister city, and we might ask Daniel to flow into there. So that might be just a small change to our agenda order. Now we do have Merlene, for one of being advised, there is a closed session, which I'm sure that by then you will certainly say that you're interested in our meeting, but certainly that'll be later on this afternoon. So everyone, look, I think everyone is present, is now correct. Apologies, we will have none. Leave of absence required, anyone?
I was just going to say yes, but I don't.
No leave of absence required. Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, councillors, we might move to the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, which is on page 3. Yeah, it runs through. That was the General Council meeting of the 13th of March. Was someone that was present there like to move those, please? Moved by Councillor Rolt, seconded. Councillor Brindlecombe. And we'll just roll through those before we actually put that to the vote. Could probably, Gerard, just give us a little bit of an update there. We did actually talk about the Sojitz issue there. There is an update? Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Gerard. Any other queries or otherwise in those record of those minutes, councillors? Well, if not, they've been moved and seconded. Those in favour? Against? Thank you.
Assuming it's unanimous, Mr. Mayor, but I never saw all hands go up.
Sorry, Paul? Against. Thank you. Right. Business arising out of minutes. I don't think we need to roll through that again. We've got some updates here coming through later in the agenda. Councillors, a review of those outstanding meeting actions. And just a reference number if there is something that you'd like to raise.
Just some feedback, Mr. Mayor. As you know, the beige colour means that there has been some action, and those updated comments reflect that action. The pink colour means that there hasn't been progress, and green means it's finished or completed. I did want to mention with item 8, which is the family riding park, the comment hasn't kept pace with action, so it says there that no action can be taken until the community group is incorporated. This is likely to take some time. Communication with Ross Drayton is certainly being the leader in relation to getting the community together to progress that opportunity, is that he has got a committee together, and he'll be writing to council very soon with information, and that'll prompt us to, well, hopefully incorporate on those next steps. So that's a little update we might be able to just add on to that one, which puts it into that beige colour. So there has been some progress there.
Any other queries from the councillors? Yes, Councillor Roll.
Number 11, has that One officer, CEO, would be done.
No, it hasn't been done.
Has it got a cut-off date?
No, I checked that out the other day. According to the website, there's no cut-off date, but I have it.
It was on the radio, it was advertised on the radio.
Hoping to get that one done, even if we've got a little bit of help to put it together. Before that's in and submitted.
Well, councillors, review of the upcoming agenda items, I think that's just by exception. I mean, if there's something there that you think isn't on there, that's probably the opportunity to articulate. We've done that before.
Yeah, can just give a brief update. Item 1 can be deleted because that's talking about a community wanting to achieve some changes, and to date we haven't received any correspondence, so the ball is in their court until they take the time to come forward to council. So I think it makes sense to take it off altogether, and we can be reactionary to that. The second item should be deleted because that's part of Mr. Bradshaw's budget process. The third one can be deleted because that application's been received and it's now subject to our planning processes. The fourth one is on our agenda today, so it can be kicked off. We will chase up the Springshaw Creek strategy because it should have been on today's agenda. I'm sure Mr. Fletcher and his staff are working on that, so we'll have an update or adjust the date for when that comes to council so that we can deliver on that. And number 6, and I'll end very soon, number 6 is a discussion that will take place with the executive leadership team this week regarding the timing of these 3 reports per year that will come to council. This is a report that will provide a comprehensive update, not lengthy, but a comprehensive update on the key priorities that the ELT are pursuing for the organisation. So that'll touch council 3 times per year. It's just a matter of agreeing when those points will be, and then the organisation can respond to it. And lastly, I'll just comment on item 7. It's unclear what that one's about, so I think we could probably remove it and replace it with what we're going to do at the next strategy meeting, which is to have another stab at organising our priorities for pursuit of funding opportunities, etc. So we'll build time into the next strategy meeting to deal with priorities. So we'll clean that one up, clean that schedule up.
All right, so that'll trim that down appreciably, councillor, and then obviously if there's other things that need to happen going forward, we can add those. So, thank you. Right. All right, councillors, material personal interest, conflicts of interest, personal gifts and benefits. I'm certainly going to add to that list today. Has anyone else got anything to declare? Well, councillors, as I've done in the past, I'm declared the perception of conflict of interest in relation to our agenda item today, which is 12.1, which is development application 401.2016.1. So I'll declare this and that the Deputy Gale will chair that part of the meeting for that discussion today. Councillors, that's no others? No substantive gifts? That's good. All right, Mr. CEO, no petitions.
No, Mr. Mayor.
You. All right, our committee recommendations, let's move down to, oh, well, that actually gets me out of the room. So I think the first report will be item 12.1, and I'll ask Deputy Gale to chair the meeting while I leave the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just mic up.
If you want to sit over here, Councillor Dorman-Smith.
Shoes. Shoes are dead.
All right, so councillors, thanks planning team. So council, the agenda item for us today is development application 401.206.1 CQ Commodities Proprietary Limited. This is not a strange agenda item to this room, so I'll hand over to General Manager of Community, Stephen Fletcher, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Again, this is not an unfamiliar report councillors, this was actually presented on November 14th last year to the General Council meeting. At that meeting, it was the decision was deferred in relation to this particular development application for pending further information, namely the reasons and implications for refusal and the effective conditions to address council's concerns in regards to buffers, lot size, easement access, biosecurity, water access and security of road service, and preservation of status of good irrigated property land. So the planning team have since that time gone away and collected some further information, and I'll hand it over to Kirsten Stephanie now to outline that information in particular and the final recommendation.
Sure. Through you, Madam Chair. This application that's come before us was lodged by Murray and Associates on behalf of CQ Commodities, seeking a development permit for a 1 and 5 lot subdivision and creation of an access easement on land located at the Capricorn Highway Emerald, described as Lot 12 on SP 178-418. The parcel being subdivided is 119 hectares of rural land and is intended to be subdivided to accommodate high-intensity agricultural activities which require a large supply of water and benefit from close proximity to both the town of Emerald and the Capricorn Highway. Examples of uses include horticulture, grapes and citrus, intensive animal husbandry, breeding complex, horsing stabling complex, plant nursery, or small-scale fruit and vegetable crops were proposed by the applicant. So I'll hand over now to Stephanie Mattner, the Coordinator of Development and Planning, to take you through the assessment of that application.
Through you, Madam Chair. The officer's recommendation for this proposal is that the application for reconfiguring a lot subdivision 1 into 5 lots and an access easement on land located at Capricorn Highway Emerald be refused on 3 grounds, which are outlined in the report. The overview of the lot, the site and surrounds. It's located approximately 8.8 kilometres out of Emerald. It has an area of approximately 119 hectares. The surrounding land uses, there's a creek. Winton Creek runs parallel to the eastern boundary of the subject site, within a lot used for grazing, and to the south and west of the site there are production of table grapes and associated single rural dwellings. Characteristics of the application site. It's irregular in shape, has approximately 119 hectares. It's clear of native vegetation, is currently used for grazing. Currently detached dwelling on the site. A large shed for storage of equipment and associated with rural activity. There's also a dam on the site too. Subject site benefits from existing easement for the purpose of sourcing water from the Sunwater Weema Channel. The proposal history. Initial inquiry was made to Council's Development and Planning team to discuss if Council would be able to favourably support the proposed development. Preliminary advice was advised, that was provided. At that point in time, the applicant was proposing to do a leasehold and not a freehold subdivision. The application came into Council in January 2016. It was presented as a freehold 5 lot subdivision. The application was eventually brought to Council on the 14th of November 2017 at its general meeting, and Council's resolution was to defer the application's decision to provide more information, to give reasons and implications for the refusal, or to give effective conditions to address the concerns that Council had within that decision making. Following that, the Council's resolution, we sought further information from Bill Thompson to give us information from a professional perspective on the suitability of the land soils and irrigation for the land. The report concluded that the proposal was unviable and provided sufficient grounds for us to refuse the application. Description of the proposal. This is a proposed 5 lot subdivision from 1 lot, parcels being approximately 21 to 25 hectares in size. The application, when it came in, was assessed under the Sustainable Planning Act 2009 and the Emerald Shire Planning Scheme 2013. The officer who assessed the application took into account the Rural Zone Code in particular reconfiguring a lot code and development standards codes as well, in place in the planning scheme at that time. The desirable environmental outcomes which were assessed were social, environmental and economic. The assessment for the social probably has no impact as far as this particular application. However, for the environmental, the opposite comment for this report is the development as proposed is considered to be unviable unless sufficient water of up to 2 to 3 megalitres per hectare of crop area per crop can be provided and extensive soil enhancement is carried out. This much larger irrigation water volume may increase pressure on current water supplies, but being rural in nature would not specifically contravene the remaining environmental elements. As far as the economic side of things, the officer comment, it is considered that the proposal fails to comply with the above economic elements of the desired environmental outcomes, and outlines the main provisos there. The proposal was also assessed under the Rural Zone Code. Again, just in relation to the insufficient water and the soil types, which were provided information from Bill Thompson's report. The conclusion was the proposal is not consistent with the Rural Zone Code. And likewise for the reconfiguring a lot zone code as well. The agronomist report is provided by Bill Thompson. He provided this report on the 6th of March 2018, including maps which outlined the emerald irrigation area of the EIA. Application property is within the EIA, and mapping shows location soils on site which are considered suitable for annual horticultural uses. Concluded that majority of the 39 hectares that was considered suitable for cropping purposes, or purposes for which this application has been applied, were located within lots 1 and 2, and then the rest spread throughout lots 3, 4 and 5. The report concludes that the proposal provides no certainty that the lots can be successfully marketed as viable irrigable farming areas. If not utilised for farming, the lots are likely to become rural living areas which may conflict with the surrounding commercially operated rural land uses. The report was the application was publicly notified when it came through the council system, and we received three submissions in that. I think we went through this morning, been through in detail.
So just to highlight, the main submissions raised were in relation to minimum lot sizes, fragmentation of good quality agricultural land and potential precedents being set, location and type of proposed access, and the impact on amenity of adjoining premises, being the dwelling house, long-term viability of the land, and then biosecurity risks. So there were 4 main submissions raised within the 3 submissions.
Note that the concerns raised by these were actually reflected in council's decision when they decided to defer the decision as far as to seek further information to make sure that any conditions reflected and protected these particular parts of the raised. So in conclusion, assessment of the application, including all information available and submitted for consideration for the reconfiguration, has been made in accordance with the Section 314 Sustainable Planning Act 2009, Emerald Shire Planning Scheme, Amendment Number 3, 2013, and the Central Highlands Regional Council Planning Scheme, 2016, Amendment 3. Given the small quantity of suitable soils over the extended 5 plots and insufficient volume of irrigation water and small rural lot size, it is considered that the proposal is unviable and therefore unsatisfactory in terms of the relevant matters for consideration as addressed within this report. The officer's recommendation is to refuse the application.
Thank you very much, Stephanie Kirsten and Daniel, for that comprehensive report. Sorry, sorry, is that better? So thank you very much, planning team, for your comprehensive report and comments in relation to that recommendation. Councillors, we have discussed this at at length, again, as recently as this morning. Obviously, the recommendation is there, and I invite questions, queries, or comments from council in relation to that recommendation.
No.
Councillor Bell?
Chair, I don't make any comments other than say thank you very much for a very comprehensive and I think very telling report in regards to this application, and I'm happy to move the refusal.
Okay.
I'm happy to second that.
So moved, Councillor Bell, seconded Councillor Sypher, all in
Is there any
favour?
other chance to comment on this?
Oh,
You've got to comment that,
yeah,
so before you put it,
we'll
you
just hold that,
the chair has accepted the move and seconded it.
so we'll just hold that, Councillor
It's
McIntyre.
pleasing that after much deliberation, it's fairly quick to move that motion. But the reason, this dates back to January 2016, when the initial application was made. So whilst it's been tedious and a long time working through the whole application, I look at some of the recommendations here in regards to the refusal on the following grounds. One being that the 2,000 acres, it doesn't form the minimum of 2,000 acres when I don't know that many on a percentage basis of how many other farming lots in the irrigation area are over 2,000. And we've certainly seen just recently another defragment of our lands to the west. So I don't know how that recommendation stands up against what we've already have in our area. The second point on the grounds of refusal on these following grounds is insufficient irrigation water available, when in fact the properties alongside this application don't even have a water allocated to those parcels of land. In fact, they actually purchase as required water from our supplier, being Sunwater, delivered down the Selma Channel, which this particular property is at the end of. So, or alongside of. So again, I do not understand, even though we have discussed at length on many occasions this application, I still have a problem understanding these particular grounds that we're actually refusing on. And then to the third one in regarding soils, when, if you look at the soil types, again, the neighbouring properties have certainly the same soil types and the variation of soil types on those lands, but yet successfully grow agriculture and above crop types on those grounds and on those specific soils. And with modern science, the way it is, it's not so much the soil, it's what we can add to the water that allows us peak net profits from our return on water as we're all going towards. It's not so much the soil. So on all those three grounds that you've highlighted here, I just don't understand how we can go forward and refuse this application. On top of everything else that we've discussed as a council, the direction that we're taking as a council, bringing the Central Highlands region in, the promotions that we do, the focus that we have on horticulture, and our food bowl going forward to the rest of the world, I feel that we're stagnating the opportunities of our region, and refusing this puts us years behind our counterparts, where in the Lockyer and in the south of Toowoomba they are going gangbusters. Their communities are thriving on the back of small cropping, and we continue to find a reason to refuse these applications instead of supporting them and bringing vibrancy to our communities. And I strongly suggest that we do not refuse this application. And I can talk all day, and we've talked all morning about it, and we've talked on 4 occasions about it.
So perhaps, Madam Chair, if I can, to consolidate some of the robust discussion that did occur in the strategy meeting earlier, it was recognised that the town planning instrument may not be in keeping with some of the strategic visionary documents that exist around agriculture that have been produced by the Central Highlands Development Corporation and the Central Highlands Advanced Agriculture. Is it Advanced Agriculture? Accelerated Agriculture, sorry. And there is a view expressed that the on-ground knowledge is in conflict with the 1960s McDonald Tucker soil study. And what was put forward as evidence to that is that there's other successful enterprises producing new crops over the last decade. And I see that there's an opportunity for the CHAR or others to provide council with information regarding any perceived mapping anomalies, and that may or may not inform amendments to the town planning scheme. Challenge we've got today is that this application has to be considered in terms of the current planning instrument, and that's the recommendation that's been put forward by our planning professionals.
Was there any comment that the planning team was to make in relation to the council making those questions?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to clarify, the development and planning team does recognise that there are strengths in the development application, but unfortunately there were too many conflicts with the planning scheme that couldn't be overcome by the information that was provided. So to just summarise then, the failure to meet the intent of the overall outcomes, the purpose and minimum lot size prescribed by the reconfigure and lot code, failure to comply with the economic and environmental elements of the desired environmental outcomes of the strategic framework, and the grounds of refusal have been reviewed by a legal team to ensure that they are factually correct and can stand up in a refusal situation. So I'm not sure if Stephanie would like to comment on the application material for the 120 megalitres, or
just that the assessment that we did on the application was based on the expert information that we received, obviously for the soil and irrigation requirements, and also from the application details as well that the applicant provided, the 120 megalitres. That's where that information came from. So.
And so looking to the future, there are a schedule of amendments, major amendments to the planning scheme, looking at a number of things such as flooding and renewable energy and business improvement and innovation to reflect advances of new policy directions that have been established within council, including the agribusiness intent and economic master plan and so forth. So planning studies will need to be undertaken to properly inform the direction that the scheme needs to take in terms of welcoming those development opportunities and supporting those strategic documents.
So through the chair, what I gather and what I'm trying to piece together is we have a planning team that's actually stating that there is quite a considerable amount of strengths to this application, but we're hamstrung by the previous town or the planning scheme because of when the application was originally made. And should we update that to the direction of this council, this application could be put in front of us once again in 12 months or 2 years.
No.
Through you, Madam Chair, that is a potential scenario. So depending on the planning studies that shape the policy direction that the planning scheme will take, this application may be lodged down the track, and depending on the nature of those studies and what that dictates in terms of the strategic framework and the policy direction, there may be support for it, but unfortunately we don't have that background information at this stage to make an informed decision.
Councillors, any further comments in relation to this particular application? Use more speakers for or against? No, well, if that being the case, I'm happy to put the motion.
Well, the voice already in a second.
Yeah, if we're going to put the motion, it's move Councillor Goldsack and Councillor Cypher. All those in favour? 2, 3, 6. Against?
Definitely against.
Councillor
And
Manning. So that's 6.
Beg your pardon, Councillor?
And no.
Yes, and Councillor Manning records his vote against the motion. So carried 7-1.
In favour? Yeah.
7-1.
Thank you very much, Kirsten, Stephanie, and Daniel, coming tonight. There's a lot going into it, so I appreciate it very much. Get the mayor back in.
Right, councillors, thank you, thank you, Gail, for sharing that section of the meeting for me, thank you. 12.2, which is the community grant program round one. Well, that is on page 78. Right. Now, Jen, would you like to introduce, Anne's come down, and with Suzanne, thank you.
Thank you, Through you, Mr. Mayor. Council, this decision report before you is for the first round of 2018's Community Grants Program. So you'll note you've had 26 applications received when the applications closed on the 28th of February. It's exciting to see the number and quality of applications again, and I'd like to acknowledge the particular assessment panel for their work, and there's quite a spread of groups and projects across the entire region. And I'd like to note as well, this is the second time the program has included the community and sport and recreation components to it. So I'll pass it over to Suzanne and Annette to highlight the details of the grants.
Thanks, Daniel. Through the chair, good afternoon. Today we present this report regarding the community grants for your review and consideration for endorsement. And I'll just actually pass you over to Annette, who is the Community Development Officer who coordinates the Community Grants Program, and she'll tell you more about the results. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Through the chair, good afternoon. This report is regarding the Community Grants Program for Round 1 2018. As you're all aware, there are 2 rounds of community grants per year, totaling $166,500 per year. This report is brought to the council for council to accept the community grant assessment panel's recommendation to council for endorsement of the 19 applications of the 26 received, to a total value of $83,560.41. The list for endorsement is on the report, and were there any questions?
Just a quick question, the Southern Cross Kids Camp. I was just wondering, I can't recall the guidelines around, it's only a small amount, it's just really, it just seems, is this, obviously the organisation is not a local organisation, or is it?
It's the Emerald Branch.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Probably just to add a comment, as myself and Councillor Nixon were on the assessment panel along with council staff and community members. It was once again a real pleasure to be involved in the process. So I congratulate Annette and her team on how she brings the applications to the assessment panel. They're always of a high quality. Everything that we need to assess them is there, and it's a real pleasure to be involved in that. And once again, the diversity of the applications and what comes before us gives us a real insight into what's going on in our community and what the needs are, and it's great to have the diversity of sport and rec versus community grants, and it's yeah, it's a really great process, and it's a great way to be able to help our community groups out. So thank you, Annette, for your work. Good to see so many great projects there before us.
Any other comments, councillors? I think that's an excellent result. That's another $83,000 really wisely distributed through the community. It's excellent. All right. Yeah, who's in that? Councillor Daniel. So we have a mover that the St Helens Regional Council endorsed those. So moved by Councillor Daniel, second by Councillor Godwin Smith. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Well done, Annette and Suzanne, and I believe you're acting in Suzanne's absence, I believe. Very good. The character building, for sure. Yeah. Very good. Thank you very much. Councillors, item 12.3, which is a call for Community Planning Advisory Group Chairperson nominations. I guess Suzanne's in the hot seat there. I mean, would you like to lead us in? Yeah. Oh, sorry, Daniel? Yeah.
No problem, thank you, through the chair. The Central Highlands Regional Council is committed to strategically supporting the community planning process by attending and participating in the Community Planning Advisory Group. The Community Planning Advisory Group has some strategic objectives, which are to oversee the implementation and delivery of the Central Highlands 2022 Community Plan, to participate in the ongoing continuous improvement of the Community Reference Group model, to champion the Community Reference Group model within the community, and to assist our 13 community reference groups with the implementation of their place-based community plans and projects, and also to share and celebrate the achievements of the community reference groups. To date, the chairperson of the Community Planning Advisory Group has been Councillor Bell, who has recently resigned from this post. So the Communities Department would very much like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Bell once again for all of his contributions as chair, and we continue to look forward to his continued support as a member. But today we do need to find someone else who will be our chair. So today's report calls for nominations for councillors to fill the vacant Community Planning Advisory Group position. So we're looking for nominations.
Through the chair, I just want to say I want to mention how supportive I am of the Community Reference Group program, and I wish to nominate Councillor Brenda Cone for the position of chair of the CPAC.
Councillors, we've received the nomination for Councillor Charlie Hill. Can I hear the nominations?
Charlie.
Councillors? No other nominations? Well, the resolution is there that we invite nominations. Councillor Brenda Cone has been nominated. Do you accept that nomination? Councillor Brenda Cone? Right, so through majority vote, those in favour of Charlie Cone being appointed, Councillor Charlie Cone being appointed the new CPAC chair. All in favour? Oh, sorry, I need a seconder. Well, that's just one of a seconder. Someone like to second Charlie's nomination. Councillor McIndoe. So moved by Councillor Daniel, seconded by Councillor McIndoe. Those in favour? Against? Thank you. Well done. And certainly it would be remiss of us not to, certainly the council in thanking Councillor Bell for his role, not only with the CPAC group, but certainly for the whole, I guess you'd say, concept of community planning from the inception through councils prior to this one, and I guess his community involvement over the term of his natural life, and that's a true story. And I thank Councillor Bell for that, because obviously this particular committee was something that he certainly held near and dear to his heart. We thank you, Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Tom.
Right, councillors, it's presentation time, I suspect, Emily. Yours is just about ready. Second. We only go first, so who's got that presentation? You have. So go back, give Dan, yes. Sorry, Marnie, I don't know, trying to confuse Daniel. Confuse myself. What is the good picture there? All right, councillors, well, this is a bit of a combined effort. So Councillor Rolfe is obviously been on tour. Jim Michelle Webster was certainly orchestrated and putting together some of this information. Sam Hobbs is absent today, was involved. So I think we'll tag team this a bit, Michelle.
Yep,
very good.
Okay. I'll kick off, thank you. First of all, apologies, councillors take a little bit of time to get before council, but that's just associated with workloads and trying to bring everything together. So I will thank Amy actually, who did all the work, not me, but and acknowledge that. And I think at the outset, also acknowledge our other staff who actually got us to the plane to start with. So Linda Connell and Annette always do a great effort in regards to assisting officers and mayor and councillors in regards to our travel program, and a lot of work goes into that, so it's important to acknowledge that, so thank you. So that first photo is us at Tokyo train station, and I suppose I'll be a little bit cheeky here, and thank goodness our Japanese friends came and rescued us, because perhaps we were at the wrong train office to start with, and then it was a very brisk 20-minute walk to the office that we needed to be in. So, mayoral delegation obviously was the Mayor, Councillor Roll, Daniel, myself, and Sandra Hobbs, who travelled to Japan. We did commence our tour with 3 days in Tokyo, meeting resource companies that operate within our regional area. And I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor, if you may like to chip in.
So councillors, obviously, as Michelle said, that certainly en route to Shinnoseki, and obviously the key part of our sister city exchange, mayoral exchange, and certainly we took the opportunity to meet with certainly 3 companies that have made significant investments through resource activity in the region. The meetings, I guess, being twofold. One is to firstly identify ourselves from the Central Highlands Regional Council and to thank them and to discuss how important their investment in this region over the last 30 to 50 years, and certainly to discuss about their plans going forward, and then obviously to probably discuss with them and share with them the other co-inhabitants of the region in terms of the communities that their businesses either sit near and where they source their employees. So obviously on day one, obviously Idemitsu Kogan is obviously is the Ensham, one of the main principal in Ensham mine, which is east of here. And certainly something we did notice that they certainly do have a lot of emphasis on their values, and it's prominently displayed in their offices and in their literature. They are in fact not only certainly have investments in resource companies around coal, but they are, most of them are very much a global energy company. This one particularly, if you go through mainstream Japan, Idemitsu is kind of like Caltex. You see Idemitsu service stations on every second corner. So they're obviously a significant oil producing or oil refiner. You can see there thousands of employees, obviously significant capitalisation. The Ensham Resources started in 1994, and then they have obviously that Nagoa Pastoral Company, which is not actually running 10,000 cattle, it's actually 1,000, I think. If they are, they're all in their pits or they're mining them underground. But certainly they have a very high quality drum herd down there. They have a very strong environmental statement on site, and they do, in fact, through their reference group, have Councillor Megan Daniels and Councillor Alan McInday there. You can see the core business. They are very, the Japanese companies will visit are very culturally attached to their history and the strength around how important that is to their reputation. And they certainly welcomed us on that first day. They actually offered us, they certainly have one of the largest museums in Tokyo, or Bath, and had a building there and offered us obviously the opportunity of visiting there. You can see they have a strong community sort of engagement through education facilities, and certainly we took the time to discuss just, certainly the things that were kind of topical at the time, certainly in their port, the port relationships generally, and they were very engaging in their discussion about those things. It's very important to them. And certainly we talked about, certainly potentially changes to, the responses to fly-in fly-out work and fly-in fly-out businesses, and just how that air hub must certainly be something that they should know about and be aware of, and what their thoughts were about it. The other thing was the fact that whilst we're discussing water supply to the Seafield and Port area, that obviously an alternate route from the access from Wingmart Channel down the highway would via the Hiniers Road from their mine site to the site, only on the basis of access to the river and the potential around discussions they may have had earlier on with the large macadamia grower that's now adjacent to their mine site en route to Yamala, and the potential, I suppose, synergies with Yamala into the enterprise area going forward. So we just raised that with them, and they were certainly keen to hear what that was about. That's not how you're supposed to look when you're eating your food.
See that photo?
It was a little bit difficult trying to, I was actually trying to find a very raw squid time, which is.
It's very tasty.
Yeah, I'm just making sure what's there. Move on, please, mate.
That was our first traditional Japanese meal, wasn't it?
There was the bento box in a very traditional restaurant. So, the second meeting was obviously with Sojitz, and they are obviously the owners and operators of Minerva, and certainly the Media Down South project, and certainly I suspect whether it's been ratified and finished now, that potentially the owner of the Gregory kind of space out there, I'm not sure about that. But certainly, and each of these groups did a very traditional thing. They met with, sent a representative to where we were staying, and we actually walked back to their office and then sat through a meeting, a fairly traditional meeting, and we effectively sort of ran through discussions with them, and they were very interested in I suppose, the fact that they're very much aware that the labour market is starting to contract. They are starting to look for workers, and they do know, particularly certainly Sojitz were very strong on the fact that they wanted to employ local people, and sharing that information about our communities. Not that their Australian management isn't aware of that, but certainly for them it was just good to know why, I suppose, their management and their board discuss different things and put that into context for them. And they certainly are and by their activities just recently, they are very strong and growing their business in the Central Highlands area, which is very pleasing, I suppose, from our perspective. And they are all the time looking for new projects. Our last meeting was with the Mitsubishi Metals Group, which is part of Mitsubishi Corporation, one of the largest companies in Japan. They obviously, we met with the MDP section, as I talked about this morning in the BMA update, and we certainly did acknowledge their significant community engagement contributions they've made, certainly through certainly Peter Dowling's presence in our communities, and certainly through recently their management through Rag Wood, and his determination certainly that Central Highlands and Central Queensland is a very strong focus. So that was about it, and I'll leave it to Michelle.
I might chip back in, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we did get to, it was a very full-on program, and every day was full-on from morning through to night. But we did get a little bit of time to do one afternoon, morning, a bit of sightseeing in Tokyo before we went off to our sister city, and that was quite interesting. I suppose what struck me in regards to Tokyo was for a city of, I think, 30 million people, there are very few people around. It was quite incredible, really. And obviously the city was very clean, very safe, and very, very impressive, and good time that we had there. So, Councillor Rob.
Michelle, can I just mention the photo there with the Ferris wheel in it? Those underneath in that playground, there's groups of preschool, childcare kids, and all units have their own childcare centre underneath, and that's they go out and have playtime out in those community open spaces. So there was all sorts of little groups. There was quite a lot of kids running around that field.
Yes, there was also, I don't know, a mini marathon or something being
there was
as well at the time, so that was quite interesting. We've already seen that one, and that's us arriving at the train station at Ishioseki. I don't know whether you want to chip in, Daniel, but I suppose I'll take it to the next one, or perhaps the Mayor might like to talk about.
No, I'll flip that to Councillor Roll.
So we went to visit the cattle market, and I actually got the 3,000 head it held, but there was 299 sold on that day. So I don't know whether I misread or misheard it, but it might be 300 head. Anyway,
I thought all individually 600.
Yeah, they're all individually sold, and there's a photo there of photo in the newspaper.
Linda, there was an article in a local newspaper where Kerry's there at the cattle sale and looking very knowledgeable, of course. It's an interesting concept. I mean, it's a little bit like we have bull sales here where there's individually sold, and it's all very quiet in the auditorium type selling complex, and all they've got is a little button underneath saying nobody knows who's buying what. I don't think, but it didn't seem that they knew. And then they go out and they're vaccinated and put into their selling pens. It's very clean, very tidy, and quite quick.
I think what was impressive as well was there was this separate training room, which had 50 or so people in there just learning about the process and learning about the market. And that was, I mean, was completely set up for, training people within the industry, which was really impressive. The cattle, I'm not sure if you said that, Councillor Rolfe, but once they're sold, they actually go through and have antibiotic shot, and then taken through to, I suppose, the delivery area where ultimately they go. I think at the time we were there, that the highest price I saw was the cattle being sold for $1 million, which just, when I converted that to Australian dollars, I couldn't really believe that, but there you go.
I might just add that the training room was quite an incredible show of succession planning, and one of the things we did learn was that part of the Japanese culture is you don't apply for a job, you apply to work for a company, and that's no different to working at the cattle market. So they've really got this ingrained process of trying to bring people through in succession planning, whichever industry they're working in.
So the visit to our sister city office, and obviously the mayor was very happy to receive his happy coat from our mayors, specifically designed by the mayor's nephew, and so that went over very well. I found the office to be very interesting, actually, in regards to certainly its customer service area. They provide a lot more services than we do in local government here. I'd say that they, to me, it was a bit like a Centrelink office, to be honest, and all colour-coded, and you would go to the different coloured section depending on whether you were doing welfare, or it could be a town planning matter, or quite diverse range of services that they provide to their community. We did have lunch with the mayor, the chairman, and the councillors. And then we're taken to their ballroom as well, which was very interesting and very large, and Daniel had a go and sat in one of the seats and what have you. But we actually thought it might be interesting one day if it is possible through technology to link our meetings in together, whether they sync or they don't, but we might be able to organise something. Sorry?
Was there 30-something councillors in that?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, that's right. Also, their work areas are very confined, and staff probably sit, I would think, not even a metre space would be their desk allocation. There seemed to be lots of paper to me, and quite old technology, I would say, as well. And that they would sit in a configuration of all sitting next to each other. There's no separate desks at all, and the supervisor or the team leader would sit up the front like the head teacher. So quite
similar to actually the coordinator would sit at the top here, and all the staff would sit as we are.
Yeah.
It's replicated throughout all the buildings.
Yeah. But all very respectful and head down and on with the job. Japanese Friendship Park. I don't know that Linda or Annette perhaps had seen it with so much snow before, but we did go there. That was great. Daniel and I hopped on the Flying Fox, and Councillor Rob, my apologies. So that was very good. It's great to actually visualise these things that are spoken about often. So, that's an area certainly we can be very proud of.
And as an addition to that, our tour guides and everybody else mentioned that park was probably the highest utilised within the entire region.
Tour of the disaster prevention facilities. So that area, similar to Emerald, is built on a floodplain. So they have quite extensive facility there, which is some number of staff. I think there were 2 or 3 staff there when we were there that working on a permanent basis. So that was very interesting. I'm not sure if the Mayor or Councillor have anything else they may like to add to that.
Wasn't there more staff down where that photo's taken is in front of all the TVs? They're not just pictures, they're actually TV screens, and there was quite a few. It was like a proper centre, wasn't it? Yeah, disaster centre.
It's like a museum sort of learning centre as well. They have lots of school groups that come through on the first floor to learn about the planning and the historical flood events and how they prevent them at this stage. And I guess it was quite an impressive location overlooking the vast majority of views in the city.
And then we went up to the hotel within the ski area, Oati, and had Mayor barbecued some beef for us, which was absolutely beautiful.
That was the first food I recognised for 7 days. And I cooked it myself, but it was great. It was a bit of Wagyu, and it was on the barbecue that obviously the council built up the Italian morning.
And then friendship dinner with friendship group. Very interesting, lots of food and lots of things to drink, which just seemed to just keep coming. The drumming group was really great, and you know, it's you actually experience firsthand that really warm friendship that genuinely does exist between the countries and between the councils and the different groups. So I think that was our first place where we experienced the slippers, which was a bit tricky trying to get up the stairs, but Fuji's our office, perhaps not as crowded as the main office, but a warm welcome there. Similar type arrangement where staff sit in rows with the supervisor out the front. The Mayor provided some advice in regards to their bottle tree that they have that doesn't seem to be growing.
No, they had it in a pot inside next to their desk, and it was like a, like a happy plant inside. And he said, "How old is this tree?" He said, "Oh, I think it's 10, 12 years old, and it's about as high as that, this thing." Not an ideal spot for it, anyhow.
I think they had advice at the time. Well, I remember seeing the same thing when I went over to 2013, Mr. Mayor. They had advice that it wouldn't survive the harsh winters. That's why they kept it inside, but they did commit to looking at getting it a bigger pot environment.
And you guys got a die here because you told me to take it outside.
No, they won't take it outside. I think they just moved it out of this black desk because it's not getting a lot of love and attention there. So anyhow, it's still going well.
They're very proud of it.
Yeah. So a visit to Fujisawa Junior High School. So again, I think it, well, in my view anyway, everything we saw was very impressive. To see the students actually working in the classroom diligently, respectfully, undertaking their lesson, you could hear a pin drop. It was quite incredible actually, and so we got to go into a number of classes and small interaction with the students. There was an exchange of students' letters between the countries as well. So we did drop off a few Caramello bears there. So, but I doubt that they actually got to any students. I think the teachers had all those. So, and what was also interesting, I found, because where we stayed was near the library. It was next to the public library. And in the Saturday afternoon or evening or a Sunday when we were going to an event, you would see students there in their units, in their uniforms, studying. It's quite different, quite interesting. This is the Nico Fine Metal Company, and I found this to be very interesting. They actually recycle precious metals out of mobile phones. So, and this company is producing the 1,600 gold medals for the Tokyo Olympics. And I think it's a wonderful demonstration of how community can contribute to such a project where, you know, there's been communication with the community about donating their old mobile phones and what have you, goes through the process to extract the metals that, the metal that they need to produce these metals. So that was a very interesting demonstration of recycling and, you know, a business that thrives from undertaking that. They were taking out plastic items as well as some copper as well as other pressure metals. So that was very interesting.
And it wasn't in that building there, it was just a shed. And you look at it and you think, yeah, here's a recycling unit that is built just in a shed. It's no great, wasn't anything fancy, was it?
No, it wasn't.
And, you know, here we are in Australia, we can't do things like that.
That was an initiative started by Meerkat Super actually to get the Ichinoseki region connected to the Tokyo Games.
Great initiative. Might throw to Councillor Rob, whether you might like to talk about the gorge. The gorge, the gorge.
What can you say? It's fun. It's extraordinary.
And the singing,
Sorry?
did they sing?
Yes, I did see. I suppose at the end of, you go down the gorge and then you hop off the boat and there's a bit of a hole in the rock wall. I'm going to brag about Daniel and I here. There's a hole in the rock wall and you get these little clay tokens, I suppose, and all different things, asset or love or what have you, and you throw them across the gorge, and if you get them in the hole in the rock wall, then I assume whatever will become true. So Daniel and I both got our token in the hole. I have no idea what was on the token, but yeah, no. We did the team proud, but that was just, I mean, it's one of their tourism things, just unbelievable, actually. Museum, so this was another very impressive council building provided by the council. We didn't see through the whole museum, but we certainly taken to areas where Germaine had some artefacts as well as samurai swords, and we got to hold some of those, so that was quite interesting. And again, Germaine, one of the initiatives of the Mayor. Ski resort.
Yes, this is another council facility that the particular community development team, the community's area coordinated, and Michelle and I got the opportunity to go up on the ski lift and then come back down on a motorised ski mobile while everybody else got to have a go on the little toboggans in the bottom picture there. They're really trying to generate this particular facility or incentivise as many international tourists to come along and utilise the ski field. So it's definitely a challenge not only for Ichinoseki, but I'll touch later on part of the regional population challenges that Japan are having, and this was one particular one that is a council-owned facility. They're doing a lot of localised work with school groups, but they're not seeing any real increase in international tourism based on this particular resort, which is something they're keen to do.
You work out, Daniel, something like $25 for your hire of your skis and your boots and what have you, and I suppose that's why we see Australian visitors going to Japan to ski.
And interestingly, the cost for this is about half of the prices of what the Australians would go to Hokkaido or the other primary areas of Japan. So,
perhaps Mr. Mayor, you might like to talk about the cattle farm.
Well, as you can see, obviously, it's really because of the winters, all the, especially those Wagyu breeders, they have all their breeders inside. So this guy had about 50 breeders, and they're all fed rice husks and a bit of other additives inside for the winter. I don't know, that's be 3 or 4 months, certainly inside. And then their calves, they will probably be 8 to 10 months old when they're selling them at the cattle market. So from small calves, they're raised in those facilities there. It just so happened that you might have seen the gentleman down there in the bottom left-hand corner. He was actually one of the he was selling cattle at the cattle market a couple of days beforehand, but he also had a collection there of samurai swords, or katana, and they're over 800 years old. And he's stashed them there, so that's actually a fairly traditional, I suppose, Japanese lounge room. They have obviously a table in the middle there. They've sort of got great big Samsung TVs on the wall everywhere, but certainly he was able to bring out the collection and show us a collection of swords that are between 800 and 1,000 years old, which was quite interesting. Yeah, that was the business. They're the Shinoseki Council obviously looking at a lot of our websites and certainly the Development Corporation about, I suppose, our business interface, and so they've actually, in a very impromptu way, got 10 businesses to come along, or young business people to come along and actually meet with us on a Saturday night and to talk about, and they never actually got together. They don't have a formal sort of, what would you say, Chamber of Commerce or something like that. So they actually just got to meet and talk to us. And obviously language is a bit of a problem in a big group of people, especially when they're all talking and eating. But it was very ironic that with Michelle there, that Michelle's husband obviously sells John Deere tractors. One gentleman there, he knew John Deere. He said it once, he said it 74 times. John Deere tractor.
He's following the V-neck jumper on the far side, and then on the top right-hand side, the fellow that's sitting on my right,
Me.
Yeah, after being to the cattle farmer the day before that had 50 cows, and he's considered one of the hobnobs in the cattle industry. And this young fella's, well, I presume young, we presumed a lot of things, but through language, finally I asked, well, what do you do? And Nemi asked the question, and he said, oh, I have 100 cows, and my mouth just dropped open. He's so unassuming, and here he is with 100 cows, and 100 cows in Japan is really something. And he just said, and he didn't even have a business card, because when he first sat down, he came in late. When he first sat down, I went, oh, business card, he went, and I had one. Oh, gee. They were really interested in that. And the fellow that makes the happy codes, he was there too, wasn't he?
Behind the mirror in that picture.
Turned up.
It was a bit like speed dating, but the language was a bit more. And the next day, the Mayor officiated in opening the Hina Doll Festival, and that was very impressive. All these handmade, exquisite dolls and little things was quite incredible. And then we went on to the Water Festival, and perhaps Daniel can talk about that.
Okay. So that day was an interesting one for me. The morning we all arrived at the actual street itself, it was quite a long festival throughout the day, lots of school kids, lots of food, sort of parades happening, and then at a certain time I got to go off. I did try earlier in the trip to incentivise and con the Mayor into doing this part, but he was clever enough to get out of it. And then conveniently there was someone had dropped out of this particular festivals, so there was a free spot, and I don't know how I got it anyway. It felt like having an ice bath for about 2 hours. So we started at the one of the council facilities, and in the top right-hand picture there you can see us marching along. I've got no idea what we're saying. There are some videos I can show people if they're really interested, but we marched for about 45 minutes up to a temple, Haminan, and you can't really see it in the photos there, but it is snowing. It's quite cold, and we get to the top of the temple. We hang about there for about 25 minutes, where they're praying. I'm not quite sure what we're saying or praying, but I'm participating accordingly, and everybody's getting drenched with sake. And then we head back down and we line up on the street to do 5 100-metre sprints effectively through the street, and to try and avoid the icy water being thrown at us. So the bottom right-hand picture you can see that's what's occurring, where we're running through the street. And We had to follow, as I understand, I couldn't see right at the front, but behind the mayor, who was sort of leading the charge, and it felt like take forever to walk 150 metres each time. I think I mentioned to everybody when I got back, there wasn't a moment, well, there hasn't been a moment in my life that I've wanted to hug a half-naked Japanese man so much to stay warm. There was about 360 people that participated in it. We got told in the end that 50 of those people ended up in medical tents, getting various treatment for various freezing conditions. It was definitely one of the greatest things and stupidest things I've done in my life.
Until this Saturday.
We don't have a photo there, but there was also a gentleman who had a very large bottle of sake. He was spitting it all over his annual. So that was very interesting.
The festival itself is about fire prevention, ironically enough. So there have been a number of fires in the region historically, and there's also a number of years, for men anyway, when you're a certain age, it's an unlucky year for you, so you should be participating in that water festival, and they would write certain symbols on their back, which would connect to them individually in their life, and it would hopefully give them good luck if they made it through life.
Thank you. Next slide, our farewell dinner, and was a great opportunity to thank all the people that had helped us throughout. I think we had 3 or 4 interpreters as well who were absolutely fabulous, and yeah, we had an opportunity to also speak about what the trip meant to us and what we learned as well. So, and last day, snow turned on for us as we left as well, so that was great. I think we left probably, I don't know, it was probably 9 or 6, and I think when we got off the plane in Emerald it was 43 that day, so it was quite different. But that is their library, very impressive building with a cafe in it. We had a tour of that facility, and again, I think that day was a public holiday actually in the city, and they're just students and young people just waiting for the doors to open to come in and do their study and to sit and learn, and you know, quite incredible. I don't know if you had any other comments about the library, Daniel?
I think the library is, in particular, second and also in the other areas that I visited, which I'll talk about soon, is it's just such an investment from a particular local government in their educational system as well. So that's one uniqueness to the difference, is that the local governments in Japan coordinate the education. So there's some nice synergies between how they're able to design libraries and place libraries and provide those resources for their students.
Thank you. It's an absolute privilege to have been part of that. So I think, certainly I personally thank Council for that.
Thank you, Michelle, and to Christine and to Sandra, obviously, and to Daniel for putting that together. And I do want to say, and certainly to the staff members, certainly from Central Highlands Regional Council, and certainly to Linda, Connell and Annette, who have probably had a very close involvement with the exchange programs for a number of years. If any of us didn't get the value of this exchange, we certainly get it now. The commitment by our sister city to, I guess, fundamentally extending the most incredible hospitality to us in a very, very humble and a very all-giving way was nothing short of quite humbling. And you didn't need to ask for anything twice, or as soon as you thought about something, they were there to make sure that was met. And we can certainly say that they set a very high standard for us, and I can certainly say that their community is just incredibly grateful for the fact that we have this enduring relationship, and certainly through their children. But I think just the sharing of interests. Their community is about 130,000 people, so it's quite a small regional city, but it's still a very big city in comparison to us. But they certainly are very, very committed to this relationship. And as I may have said before, when we left, people there, the interpreters, staff, community staff from the council, and other staff and people that have visited us, that we visited during the actual tour, actually paid to actually come onto the railway station and wave goodbye to us. So it was an incredible gesture, and we are certainly very, very much in their debt, and it's certainly something that I think as a council, we should endeavour and will endeavour to make sure we continue for a long time. So I do thank people like Linda and the community staff for perpetuating that wonderful spirit of sharing that exists between our two communities. So it's a wonderful thing, and I certainly get it now. On behalf of those of us who are lucky enough to travel, we appreciate the council's sponsoring us to go on this trip, and we certainly will make sure that when they return, we'll do our best to reciprocate that wonderful hospitality. So thank you, everyone. All right, Daniel, did you want to lead on to your, I guess, your continuance?
Yes, so everybody got the fortune of going home. I got a great chance to stay on as well. But if I can extend some thanks to Lani and Belinda, who played a pivotal role in coordinating a lot of this as well, and again to Annette and Linda. I think I only had to call once when I was over there to sort something out, and I'm both more than happy to help me out. But again, Linda also brought this particular opportunity to our attention, so I also need to thank the ELT team for allowing me. We had a sort of brief discussion about it, and I got the opportunity to stay on. So, but the particular tour, or the study tour, was coordinated by CLARE, which is the Council of Local Authorities International Relations, a Japanese-based entity which is funded by the federal government. So the federal government pays to have them set up in various locations. So their main offices are in Tokyo, but they have locations around the world. So one in Sydney, one in London, one in Paris, one in New York, I think one other place I can't remember. This particular study tour was titled Local Government Cooperation and Exchange Seminar. I'm not sure what the exchange part is. We haven't had any of them here doing the same stuff anyway, but it was certainly an interesting almost 2 weeks. The purpose, which I've outlined here, was to learn about Japanese local government, and there's a number of interesting parts which it's important to share. Most of the local governments meet quarterly. So as we're meeting today and we meet fortnightly, they meet quarterly and will sit for anywhere up to a week straight to go through all of their meetings or resolutions and decisions that need to be made. So they won't actually leave until the last quarter has all the decisions have been made. So it can last 3, 5, up to 6 or 7 days in most cases. So I thought that was particularly interesting. Also, as I mentioned before, there are a number of responsibilities that are quite different for the Japanese local government, and that is the main ones that I took away were the coordination of education services and all health services as well. So that from infancy to death, they look after everything to do with health and education. So the synergies obviously of having those particular responsibilities are quite great compared to what we have here in Australia. But I think as well, the local government in Japan takes about 58% of all tax collected compared to our 3% here. So they have quite a significant extension of responsibilities than what we're used to here. The particular city that it was based out of, we had about 4 days in Tokyo to start with, and visited various local government facilities, various state government and federal government facilities as well, just to get a rounded appreciation of their government system, and a number of which was effectively networking every single night, going to a dinner, and going through that formal process as well, meeting new people from different areas. But the primary area we were going to was up in the north, just next to Ichinoseki City, called Higashino City. The two themes of the actual trip, the first one based around town planning, personal development through childcare measures, and education geared towards population growth. The second, efforts by regional cities to encourage more international tourists to visit by making full use of local resources. So that's what the actual pamphlet said, but what that actually meant was Japan, its population is declining at the fastest rate across the world. So they're looking for various ways to stem that population decline. And that was a big part of the trip. So right at the very end, we had what they called an opinion exchange, and our role leading up to that was to, I guess, collect as much information and be able to provide as much advice at that opinion exchange about reversing their population decline effectively. And the second part, reading through that, which we found out at the end, was they have the Tokyo 2020 Games coming up, and each regional area wants to know how they can intelligently spend their money to attract tourists around that time, so that it's not all centred around Tokyo. And again, how they could not waste money in the lead up to attracting people or certain marketing strategies. So that was reading between the lines once we didn't realise that to the last day. That's where they started to sort of target their questions around. So we visited very similar facilities while we were in Higashi to what we did in Ichinoseki around their libraries, some childcare centres, some schools. This is one particular centre which is multi-purpose centre on steroids. It does everything from arts and drama, convention centre. It has a library. It has a 3-level childcare centre. So that picture on the right there has quite an amazing array of activities and slides and climbing equipment, and it's all free.
Big kids.
For big kids, yeah. We did get amongst it there. But I think the important part is all of those services are free, and there's a number of reasons. So Higashi City is the only city to actually not have a decline in their population. So they're actually experiencing an increase in their population. And there's a number of reasons for that. The immigration discussion isn't a discussion in Japan. They don't really talk about that in terms of immigration policy, how they can use that to increase their population. But effectively what Higashi City are doing is they're stealing from their local cities and making it more attractive to live in Higashi. A number of the various policy measures are free childcare, free services, almost everything free for children. So it's quite an incentive for younger people and families to have children. The council also, well, many councils, Higashi is one, Ichinoseki is another, they also coordinate something called singles parties, where they actually try to get people together and hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll have children later on to continue populating the city. It's quite a fascinating investment from their local government to population growth. Got a similar opportunity at Kebuke Gorge. We went on another boat just further up that river actually. We didn't get the chance to throw any stones though. That's okay. And again, similar process around eating many traditional and authentic meals throughout the time. We also got the chance to do a homestay. So this was my homestay family. Kiyoshi the dad, Kiko the mum, Naomi the daughter, and I can't remember the cat, but it definitely hated me. But that was quite an interesting experience, getting to spend, we only got to spend one night with our homestay family, but importantly it was quite good because they gave us an opportunity to see how they connected to what the community facilities were, or what the local government had set up for that particular family. So we went to a number of different shrines that they showed me, but also to they showed me some of the places that they go, which council facilitates, which are just the general community centres and things like that. And then the picture on the left, that was not my sleeping arrangements at their house. Well, that was very similar. That was when we stayed at an onsen. So it was another 2 nights where we got to learn about that culture. I'll touch on that a little bit further. This is the opinion exchange that we had at Higashi City. It lasted probably about 4 or 5 hours. It was quite good in terms of the targeted questions they asked of us and their happiness or gratitude for us being as honest as we could about some of their challenges. So I think the key learnings were based around relationships and communication. So from the first week on the mayoral delegation, basically up to the last night, the drinking culture was incredibly intense. It's a really big part of what they do. Almost every night after work, they will go down to find somewhere to drink and socialise with their colleagues. That was just quite an amazing learning, not only in the regional areas, but also in Tokyo. They have what would be seen as many major, small areas for you to go and drink. So not big bars or anything, but lots of really small bars. And that was sort of the idea that you would go have a few drinks with your colleagues after work every night, and then catch the train home. They also employ people on most of the stations to push people into the trains because there's that many people trying to get home, especially in areas like Tokyo. So the city inflates from 30 million to 60 million during the day, so it basically doubles. But as Michelle mentioned, you don't see many of the people because they're in their office working. It's just the morning rush to get to work, and then the morning rush getting home is the only time you'll see people out and about. And then I got the opportunity on a number of different occasions to visit onsens. and the naked communication. So two of our tour guides, Yuka and Nick, had a good conversation with me about the importance of naked communication and what that means to the Japanese culture. And there's a big thing here. I won't go through it for time, but I'll send it out to everybody later on. And it effectively talks about not only connecting with nature, but the importance of being naked with other people in this scenario, where first you've got to prepare. You must prepare not only to be able to communicate, but to go fully naked. Barriers are all removed, masks are all removed. You're fully exposed, you're on the same level of others. The hierarchical system doesn't exist when you're in these onsens, and it feels good after you're done. So I'll send this through, but it's not worth me reading through all of it at the moment.
There's no photos.
But it's a genuine thing from the Japanese culture. And then I think the similar challenges around population growth in regional areas. So I touched on it before, but the cities that are doing well are actually providing free services to the young or to the youth in their area. So I'm not sure how much further we'll go around some of those things, but that was the biggest takeaway from what the successful cities are doing in the regional areas. I mentioned the singles gatherings that they do in immigration. There's just a completely different approach to the community services and library services based on the fact that the local governments coordinate health and coordinate education as part of their responsibilities. So they definitely think about solving their problems slightly differently than we do. As an example, I'm not sure we'd get away with paying for and hosting singles gatherings, but something we can discuss maybe at a different stage. That's the wrap up of the following 2 weeks after the medal celebrations.
Thank you, Dan.
Mr. Neil, I'm going to move on. We apologise for the meeting, sorry. Yeah, just got to finish off some stuff with getting those documents ready for signing. I've got to get some conversation with the federal government. See you later.
All right, councillors, and thank you very much to those officers who wanted to stay and watch that. Appreciate very much the good work you do. Thank you.
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for those reports. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
And as I said, it was a very worthwhile experience, and there's a lot invested by the people that are certainly engaged with it.
Mr. Mayor, did they indicate when they might make their trip over?
No, I should have asked in the column, but certainly I think our next group goes in July. I think Nicole Rogers is going to be one of the group there, and I think from the mayoral perspective, I'm not sure, but it usually is after that August. Thereabouts, if he's going to come this year or whether he comes next year. Yeah, the invitation has been extended, and certainly it's good to be able to have been there and then sort of reciprocate. All right, councillors, we move along to our agenda again, 13.1, which is our monthly finance report. I'll hand over to Jason Bradshaw to lead us through this. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Continuing the excitement from the general manager communities. Our monthly financial report, highlight for the month. Margaret Gatt, Manager Asset Management, will help me present this paper to the council this afternoon. So in accordance with our normal obligations, this is a monthly report for the period ending 28th of February 2018. You will notice on the front page there that we are relatively on track in terms of our budget. You can see the variance of 349,000 against the budget of 23 million is well within the bounds of where we'd expect to be at this time of year. Some of the reasons for that obviously are related to our revenue drivers at this point in time, and you can see that the table on the following page, page 118, shows that we are a little behind in relation to our rating revenue. That's really driven by water consumption at this point in time. There haven't been accruals done for those part periods, so we're hoping that over the course of the balance of the year they'll come back on track. If not, we'll review that target revenue and budget review 3. The other significant contributor to that obviously is the change in markets and the commercial services operations across airport inquiry is significantly down on what was originally forecast as well. Again, those will be reassessed at budget review 3. If I look at the graph on page 119 in relation to the operating expenses for the period, we continue to be cautious in our employee costs. The operating budget there, while shows a little bit over, in the overall wages, we are about 0.6 of 1% under where we need to be in terms of the budget. So overall, we're relatively on track, and that requires continuous monitoring from the organisation. You will notice that in terms of the statement of financial position, the outstanding debtors again still remains constant around a high level tonight in terms of the current operations, and the cash flow for the period end is just under $122 million. Some more detail has been provided around the rate of arrears, and you can see that we're looking at $6.4 million as at the end of February, which continues to move in a downward cycle, but will require continuous work, I suppose, from us as an organisation to bring that into further alignment. Margaret might make some further comments on those particular tables as we move through the report. We have provided an update there in relation to the current sale of land processes. So the date has been set for the next auction for the sale of land for rate arrears. That's the 18th of April. So we're in our, I suppose, the final machinations of those things coming together in terms of the notices and final periods in which payments can be made. What is noted at this point in time is the delivery of the capital budget, and that you can see, from the first traffic light graph, for want of a better term, that the actual delivery of the organisation is only at 33% for the year. It should be at about 67% for the year. So even if we take into account the commitments, of which some or most will be realised this year, we still are behind budget. I'll talk about that in another level of detail, and you can see the delivery on that initial graph again by department and where those commitments are. If I look at the two tables that Council has been receiving for a period of time now, you'll certainly see the underperformance in some of the key departmental areas in the construction of their capital programs, but more importantly, the cash flow forecast. As I reported last month, we need to be spending $3 million a week on our capital program to realise that between the end of the financial year. That hasn't been happening consistently enough, and we are behind target on some of those programs. What I can say, if you look at some of those programs of work there around each of the departmental activities, some will be realised if you look at the total spend that includes the committed costs, but they're not translatable in every area. Probably there are two areas in community services that are under that we need to pay some further attention to at this point in time, and seek some advice from Gerard in terms of the delivery of the roadworks programs and the NDAA program. You can see that the wastewater remains on track, so we're basically spending that budget out at this point in time to see the completion of that major project, which might be a little behind schedule, but should be significantly realised this financial year. And again, the airport inquiry projects, capital expenditure will need some further review in terms of their delivery between now and the 30th of June. We have started putting together a cash flow for those projects, and I know Margaret and her team are working closely with the managers across the organisation to tighten that piece of work. But what is evident at this point in time is that Budget Review 3, around April of this year, we're going to need to significantly review that, and I forecast that at the last meeting when we looked at Budget Review 2. It's highly likely that program that we have currently scheduled at $84 million won't be realised this financial year, and possibly $7, $8 to $10 million work that needs to come out of that program that I'll ask Gerard to make some further commentary around that in a moment. Early work has commenced around the Works for Queensland stage 2 or round 2. Those projects are shown there, and we will track their delivery in a similar way to what we did in round 1 project, attaching a cash flow to each of those individual projects so that you can see their progress over time. At this point, we have a luxury of 15 months to deliver those programs. So you'll see what's scheduled to be spent this financial year. Of note, in terms of the procurement activities, that the skew in the spending is a little bit away from local this month. I'm told that, and I will ask Margaret to add more value to that, there's probably some external costs that are shown in there that haven't been taken out for normal payments that we would make in the course of our business that don't have an opportunity to be represented in the local market. Margaret, can I ask you to make some other commentary around rates and anything else, and then we'll go back to the capital expenditure.
Thank you, Jason. Through the Mayor and Councillors. The only other comment I'd make on the rates arrears is, I suppose on a positive note, the in-house debt recovery is proving to be quite effective, with 914 assessments being managed in-house and representing arrears of approximately 472,233 ratepayers have been contacted by phone. 51 accounts paid in full since January this year to the value of approximately $40,000, and 37 accounts entering into new payment arrangements. Obviously, that not face-to-face, but council contact is making a significant difference in that. Advanced debt recovery through our debt collection agency. We've got 615 assessments through there, representing 2.46 million. And as Jason mentioned, the sale of land for rate arrears has already been advertised and is commencing over the next while. In relation to procurement, the comment that Jason asked me to make there, the total spend for February was, as you can see in the graph there or in the pie chart, was approximately 3.7 million compared to January, which was 7.2 million. And this is the predominant reason I've been given for that, is most of the large contracts are nearing completion for that. And our top local spend ranged from $800 to $101,000. I suppose the importance is of the total spend, 70% was raised in the local, even though the value was less.
Thanks, Margaret. Mr Mayor, I'd ask the other general managers to make some comment around their capital delivery, and then I'm happy to take questions in relation to the report and anything further. Perhaps Gerard and Daniel would like to comment.
Through the Chair, Councillors, there's two key areas in our capital works program that I wish to single out. The one area is we've got about $2.7 million in the Yama project, which even if things get fast-tracked, we won't get fully expended this year. So that is, it doesn't mean we're not going to spend it. It's just simply we'll have to defer some of that expenditure into the next financial year. So that was the one key issue. Over and above that, there's probably another couple of million, I don't want to mention the figure, which is constrained in the mine-funded road space. Since last year, we've had engagement with one mining company, and by agreement said we'll hold off on spending any of our roads funding until we've completed a complete review of how and where we're spending their funds. We haven't re-engaged with them this year. The last meeting was held when previous managers Shelley Fogg was still here, so that's a piece of work we have to do. But even if we resolve these issues or concerns they've had, we probably won't get all that mine-funded roads works done this financial year. So that is potentially a BR3 adjustment, which has a flow-on effect. Indidel has been adjusted back to 5 million after last fortnight's discussion. We've got roughly $3 million worth of work as part of the upfront model being delivered now, and then there's additional work that's being packaged up to be delivered by Daylight and other as part of ongoing work till the 30th of June. So the likelihood of getting that 5 million spend is high at this stage.
It is to adjust that.
All right, Daniel,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a number of our capital projects that have either been committed in the last day or two for some works to go ahead with this. I'm confident my managers have indicated that we should be close to on track, if not right on track by the end of this financial year. So this report is just short of a couple of recent approvals progressing some of that works.
I might add a comment if I can, Mr. Mayor. Just picking up on what Gerard's mentioned in relation to the mining company. That's an interesting one that we'll need to have a closer look at, because there's there's competing strategies. I suppose the mining company is always exerting pressure on council to limit expenditure, and then there's another strategy around an appropriate asset management and what needs to be done in order to be responsible custodians for assets, and I think we've got to make sure that they can meet in the middle. So that, I think, certainly needs to be looked at. The pleasing thing, Council, is the comment that Jason's made in relation to cash flows. That body of work will unlock any real issues, and that provides an opportunity for Council to look at outsourcing or working cooperatively with local and other contractors to deliver on these works, because we must remember they were put in the budget with the best of intention to be completed this financial year. That's the communication to the public, and that's the expectation, and not all is lost. We're at a point in time where we can intervene and take a different approach with some projects in order to maximise delivery. So I think that cash flow work's very important to be able to lead into making those decisions.
right, councillors, questions on those?
Just,
Yes,
through
councillor.
the Mayor, just a comment on that, the sale of houses on the 18th of April. Just, can we advertise that, because I noticed in the Longreach Leader, Barclay Shire had all them listed, so that people were aware of where the houses were, but go and have a look before the auction. And also, the really vital question, are any of these homes occupied by the owners?
I'll take the first one, Councillor Nixon. There's a whole range of statutory obligations that the council has in relation to its advertising, so we will have started some advertising, but there will be more advertising in the lead up to that sale date. I'm unaware if there's any occupied properties in that current list, so I'll have to take that on notice and provide that information back to council. That's the best I can do at this point, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions, councillors? All right, well, councillors, that's that recommendation there on page 117, which is we received the monthly report. Is someone happy to move that report? Moved by councillor Nixon, second by councillor Middleton. All in favour? Yes, thank you. Councillor Bell, this is what should be added. Right, councillors, this is whilst Margaret is here, the report on 13.2 regarding heavy vehicle safety and productivity program. Jason?
They hijacked my report, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, that's fine. And, I know you'd like to share it with your colleague. Gerard, if you'd like to share.
Through the Mayor, councillors, as you know, we actively look at opportunities to put in for funding applications. This round closes on the 30th of March for this heavy vehicle safety productivity program. Funding round closes on the 30th of March. This project that I listed here for consideration, and I'm very clear I'm listing it for consideration, that's been around for over 2 years. It's been on the CRG agenda in Ralston for that period of time. I do believe, I haven't directly been involved with, but I do believe it had input from Queensland Transport, or TTMR. It had input from MyTech Services. At the end of the day, what I brought here is a early concept of what CRG asked for in terms of the concept that they envisage to be developed adjacent to Beasley Park. The facts of the matter, I'm not going to go into the decision. The facts of the matter is I did a pretty thorough cost-benefit analysis. I had my staff do a quick cost-benefit analysis on the potential investment of 2.2 million in this project. The big sleeper in terms of cost-benefit is the operating cost. It will probably add another 2%, add about $30,000 a year to our depreciation. It will include costs such as refuge collection, cleaning, maintenance, probably in the order of $8,500 a year. The benefit or spin-offs, there's a unquantified road user benefit in terms of reduced accidents. That is at best a estimate of current fatalities and or hospitalization statistics in the region on a state control network, on a highway network. So at best it's a guess. That's the biggest benefit, cost saving, not that we should make light of it. And really in terms of local economy, that is the two figures I've listed there in the order of about $10,000-$13,000 revenue potential for people that stop over. Again, is at best a guesstimate. So in terms of the cost-benefit ratio, the best figure we come up with is 1, which means it's pretty much a line call in terms of whether it's a viable investment option. We've engaged with the ETMR. They awkwardly indicated that they weren't aware of the project and that they also did not deem it as a priority for them, although it's on the Dawson Highway. So at this stage, we don't really have their support. Doesn't mean we shouldn't advocate or lobby them to get them to fund it jointly with state funding, or it's a similar solution possibly. I mean, not maybe this solution, but another arrangement for them. And further to that is that during this last week or so that I've got this project developed up, we've also started getting feedback by our community engagement people that there are people in Ralston that are maybe not part of the CRG that is not too supportive of it. CRG is actively consulting as we speak with various people in the community. I have no clear answer as to what the community's total take on it is. So I'll leave it with council at this stage to direct me as to whether they believe it's a worthwhile project to invest in, and if it is, then we can submit it to this fund, and if council believes that it's at this stage premature and maybe not best interest of the community to pursue this project, I'm happy to take your direction.
Well, the chair, if I may. So it's probably to whoever sits on the CRG over there. What community consultation has the group done with the rest of the community?
So I'm happy to jump in and provide some commentary around this particular agenda item for sure. Without a doubt, heavy vehicle movements throughout the community of Ralston is definitely an issue. The CRG listed this as a priority very early on. As you'd be aware, we have a high level of resource activity and agricultural activity, whether that's coal or gas field development. Heavy vehicle movements and in and around the township are an issue. We've got agriculture in terms of grain movements. Freight and logistics readily come through there. There's no doubt heavy vehicle movements, parking is an issue in the town. The location or the proposed location of this particular where the concept design's been drawn up has been done in conjunction with the DTMR. In terms of broad consultation, that has not occurred. Yeah, and we'd have to go back, and if it did, it would be too long ago to be relevant at this point in time. I do know that the community would not support an investment of that amount of money in a truck stop in Ralston. I think my personal view on this, without having gone back to the CRG, would be that it needs a bit more broader consultation. I think we need to engage more with DTMR. Obviously, the engagement that's taken place hasn't been broad enough even within DTMR circles. I think this is something we need to work closely with them on in terms of developing the right concept. That to me looks like a very gold-plated design for what essentially is a problem. I'm not sure, is that the best location? Certainly at the time, and the concept that have been drawn up that wasn't the level that the community asked for. They just asked for the problem to be addressed. So what's come back is looks to be gold plated, and I do not think that they would support an investment of $2.5 million in a truck stop. I think there's probably another way of solving the problem, but again, I think it's about collaboration between community, council and DTMR. And I personally can't support the recommendation as it sits at the moment. I don't think the community would support an investment of that money in that location without some more, I do believe we need broader consultation around it for that investment of money.
Thank you.
Councillor Robb, thank you.
When we were at the Regional Transport Group meeting in Wooreen last week, we mentioned this, and Peter Trim from TMR said that he didn't think that TMR would support it because if it was on, the first question he asked was, is it on road reserve? And we said no. And he said, well, pretty sure that TMR wouldn't support the funding.
But I would importantly like to keep this as an issue for the community down there, because at the moment you've got trucks just parking willy-nilly throughout the town, dropping dust through town. You've got them parking where they shouldn't be parking, which is at the T-junction there, where it's not designated parking. Safety is an issue. Thankfully, some of the other issues that have been raised and been on the CRG agenda down there and through the TAG group have been like line marking. I think it took about 2 years to just get the line marking done, and to be honest, it took the community to get out there with a can of white spray paint, and they did it themselves. So finally, and that'll of course rub off, but that's, these issues are important to these communities, and safety is an issue in terms of heavy vehicle movements throughout that town. And as I said, it's an important crossroads, and the sealing of the Blackwater-Rolleston Road has now seen an increase in heavy vehicle movements from north to south. Traffic that might have, from Blackwater that may have gone via Emerald down to Rolleston to Glencore, for example, now comes direct. So, there's a lot of movements there at different times, and particularly harvest. A lot of those trucks just hang around town until they're needed, and it's definitely an issue. So I would like to see that it remain something that we look to addressing, but just to support it now, I think I envisage there's going to be some backlash from a range of stakeholders, whether it's community, DTMR, or other.
So do you want to suggest a proposed change to that recommendation so that we do actually capture that, Deputy Owen?
Yeah, so I'd like to see this particular issue of the truck stop in Rolleston, or the management and safety issues associated with heavy vehicle movements in and around Rolleston be done in collaboration with DTMR and the community and council. So,
Can I ask a question, Mr Mayor? I wonder, given that I know that this closes on the 30th of March, and it would be great if CHRC could have an application in this funding, is there a way that the concept can be pitched so that we can put the application in subject to several matters? We could, I'm sure, in an application highlight the importance of addressing this need, because we have years worth of community consultation that raises this issue, and it's been looked at in other locations I know of to the east of Rolleston. Is there a way, probably asking Gerard, do these applications have to be shovel ready in essence, or could it be put forward as, or the details being done, it's just subject to consultation, location and some other considerations. If that was to happen, say, over the next month or two.
And I guess what is a bit disappointing is that, you know, I think we can report that this has been done in collaboration with DTMR through people like Colin Edmonston. And, you know, for it to come back now to say, you know, it's not the right spot, you know, it's not this or it's not that, it's a bit of rubbish really, because they, you know, they have been on the journey for the last couple of years. But it's the cost. I just can't come at that cost. $2.5 million for a truck stop was,
There was a question asked of us, for that amount of money, are they putting in, you know, ablution blocks and things like that? So, you know, that was, I had no idea of what the concept design was. So, but when it looks like it's just in the middle of the car park.
Well, can I just add to that? I'm not sure that certainly Coles tag group have actually discussed the truck.
Well, it hasn't. It hasn't.
So it just makes you wonder where it's gone.
Well, Peter Trim has certainly indicated that he's viewed it, but I would have thought it was in Coles.
No.
So this is going back to
the safety issues for the trust of Main Street.
Yeah, it's a safety issue, but certainly not the extent of this. And I asked the question about this last week. I think it was last week, about, you know, whether or not any, you know, on the basis of where it's proposed, has anyone actually spoken to planners about whether that's actually a location that you have trucks?
Well, that, I assumed that had all happened internally, and as did the CRP. It came back to council to A, check whether you could put it on that piece of land, and yeah, did it fit, you know, or meet all the relevant planning conditions and requirements, and obviously it had to be supported by DTMR. And so now in the 11th hour, when the whole reason this concept was actually done up was for this particular bucket of funding, and now in the 11th hour we find out that DTMR don't really like it, possibly the community don't really like it, but it's been quite some time since the community probably been informed about the conversation in relation to this, so it's just a bit of a shame.
Reserve.
Sorry?
It's a reserve.
I think it's called Planet Street Road Reserve, and a slither on the north-eastern side is a freehold development land, council owned, but effectively the bulk of it is on what's
It's not owned by council.
No,
It's reserved.
So look, at the risk of, you know, preserving this recommendation and keeping it on the agenda, Deputy Gale, I mean, do you need to just at least get this resolution up so that we continue to, I mean, it's obviously, you know, there's not enough time to, you know, with the sort of constraints that you've got now, you can't really put it into funding application. And as you rightly say, it's just that's not what the community is looking for in terms of a $2.2 million project.
I don't think she looking for fund.
So did anyone jot those words down that Gail had there? Certainly that the proposed heavy arrest area, the proposed heavy arrest.
It remains a priority for the Rolleston community.
Yes.
I think the concept needs to be revisited in closer collaboration with DTMR, community and council.
Where that access or egress is to the east there, I think you're right there. Is that still a road reserve because it had been closed for a time before? Because there was a motel planned for that at one stage.
That skinny block of
It's kind of a V-shaped block, but it's got a road reserve through it.
Yep.
And that, well, there was a motel planned for there and they had permission to go ahead there, and I thought they closed that section of street.
Planet Street is still open.
It's still open all the
So
way through.
between Neatfield and Brown Street.
Brown Street I'm talking about.
Yeah, between Brown and Neatfield Street there's still
It's
Planet
still
Street
open.
Road Reserve.
No.
It could be that council acknowledges that remains a priority for the Ralston community and that council will endeavour to continue to work collaboratively with the community and DTR.
We've got some draft words here, Mr Mayor, we're just playing with it, that you could do with some improvement. It basically says that a heavy vehicle rest area near the township of Ralston remains a priority for the community. The council acknowledges that. Central Highlands Regional Council acknowledges.
So you don't take out the word near and just say for the township of Ralston, because that doesn't.
It's
Or just the Ralston community.
acknowledges that a heavy vehicle rest area for.
That is, actually, you take the area that for the.
Servicing the town of Ralston.
That's even better.
Such little words can mean so much.
Servicing the township of Ralston remains a priority for the community. Further, that the draft project concept.
I think that the trick is in closer collaboration.
Be revisited in, put that in there, the council was, revisited in closer collaboration with the Department of Transport and Main Roads and the Ralston community. That's in essence, I think, what council wants to do. It is a shame we miss out on this opportunity. We've got to take Gerard's advice in that the applications have to be at a shovel-ready status prior to submission, so we'll have to track it next time round.
It just seems like an excessive setup and excessive amount of money for what's needed out there.
You happy to move that, anything else?
Yeah.
Absolutely, moved by councillor Godwin Smith, seconded by councillor Wright. That's that substitute resolution, so moved and seconded, all in favour? Against? Thank you. Thank you,
Going
Gary.
to another priority. Thanks, council.
Not too long. Yeah, no, this is, leads us to 14.1.
Excuse me, excuse me.
You've got to go, yeah. Locality realignment Rubyvale Progress Association petition. Now, Mr Mayor, you leading this for us, Gerard, leading this.
I'm happy for Gerard.
Through the Mayor, councillors, this is the follow-up on the petition, and what I'm basically proposing or suggesting that we advise the petitioners that since we are going through a community engagement strategy on locality and rural addressing, we may as well pick this up as at the same time and deal with it, because I'm sure, given that we will have other locality boundary realignments and ideas, that it probably would be prudent to hold off till there and then table the whole lot with the Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy at the same time. So that is my recommendation, and the second part of it, effectively, we can advise the petitioners that of the imminent engagement that's going to be undertaken.
Just through the Mayor, one short question. When are you going to start this community engagement?
We were actually, I would like to just bring my colleague down at the bottom end of the table in. They're launching a community engagement app or something similar from your community engagement area in the next month, I think. And they were excited at the thought of using this as one of the first projects to.
Yeah, so long as the community gets some information prior to, because not everybody knows what locality they're already in, or these maps. So we need to get that information out to wherever we're going to talk. And yeah, I think, look, it's long overdue. I think we have to get moving on this very soon. We've been talking about it for quite some months. So I think that we need to move on this sooner rather than later.
If I could jump in there, Mr Mayor, I think it follows that there'll need to be good collaboration between the two departments, because the consultation that's used at the Gentles communities will have to be more aware of the sensitivities and probably be, have a slightly different process than other communities. I certainly think it's innovative, the suggestion here to utilise this process to tackle the two issues, so long as we don't take that cookie cutter approach to it.
To be honest, through the mayor and councillors, that knowing the issues that's been raised in the time I've been with council about locality and coastal addresses, I do believe there will be significant interest from certain communities about where their boundaries should be or should be realigned. So I suspect it's not cookie cutter. I can't predict the outcome in terms of the rest of the community. We know clearly what this community wants, so we won't ignore it, but we'll just have to tailor our engagement and make sure we, if we are using any other means of engagement, that we clearly make the communities aware of what we.
Yeah, we'd have to make them aware of what locality they've been assigned to, because I don't think that's actually been out to the people as yet. And I think that if we're going to plan community consultations specifically for this in the Jimmies, could we add on the siren? Because that's got to be discussed with the community as well.
Just be careful you don't get it too confusing though, so that, yeah, so their issue is that they still want their towns to be called by their names and not by the locality, and really that's the only area that community, like town community, that lost their identity. So Ruby Bar, people just refer to everything out there as the Gemfields, because that's their locality. Now, that's the issue. So I'm just worried that you don't get what their real concern is. It's not just the boundary, they don't care about the boundary as such, as long as their towns are recognised by their own names. The postcode thing will come later and it's bigger than Ben Hur. So if they each had individual postcode, it'd be wonderful. They're probably not going to get it. No, unfortunately. But yeah, just make sure that it's not just about a boundary, changing a boundary or altering a boundary. It's about it not being known as a project.
Three localities.
Yeah, they have 3 different post offices.
Yeah.
One in each town, but their address has to be Gemfields.
But that's what they're challenging.
So that's what they're challenging. They don't want to be called the Gemfields. Yeah.
So I think councillors through the mayor that if we can go there and have one consultation, Gerard can achieve his bit as per this report that's attached, the boundaries report that's attached to this report, and Daniel can achieve his bit through making sure there's clear understanding around the council identification issue, which I think we know anyway. And as Councillor Nixon said, if there's any other issues that need to be consulted with the community, we'll do it at the same time,
Probably speak about that.
rather than going back on separate occasions.
Can councillors just be invited to those community consultations as well, please?
Again, I'm in the hands of community engagement, because I'm not sure what mechanism they want to employ.
Through Mr. Mayor, all councillors will be invited to any of those engagements.
Thank you.
Also through the chair, I see your stakeholders, I know they could always fall in under other interests. I really feel that Ergon and Telstra need to be namely on that list, not just as another interest, but they certainly need engagement in those.
Emergency services too is another one.
Yeah, well, they're listed. They're Ergon and Telstra. Two of the big issues that they have out there in a time of unfortunate events, is that Ergon doesn't differentiate between their actual residential areas. Willows, Gemfields, Ruby Bar, Lanicky, they all fall under one location. It becomes very difficult for them.
All right, council, any other questions here? All right, the recommendation is that we advise the petitioners about the community engagement. So I'm happy to do that. Moved by councillor Daniel, second councillor Middleton. All in favour? Against? Thank you. So that's now 7 weeks, is it? Number keeps diminishing. Okay, councillors, 16.1, which is a call for motions, page 222. Scott, you might lead us through this.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Marnie has bundled these two matters together for convenience, so calling for motions for both the Australian Local Government Association National and General Assembly, which will be held in Canberra from June 17 to 20. Motions being due by March 30 this week. And call for motions for the Western Queensland Local Government Association Annual Conference, which is coming up on the 17th, from the 17th to the 19th of May. And the closing date for motions is April 13. The recommendation lists suggestions for each respective conference. Those topical issues being flying fox management, native title, and we had a good discussion with Oliver Gilkerson recently about native title and some of the challenges there. National local government data standards, rural mental health, and aged care for rural communities particularly. They're proposed motions for ALGA, and for WQLGA we've got a repeat of some of those issues. In addition, we have localities and postcodes, aged care, and mobile black spot funding, and the mobile black spot funding program. And I guess, councillors, we can put more energy if you'd like, but it's about quality, not quantity. And we've attached the work that's been done to date in relation to those draft motions. And you can have an input into some of that content if you wish. You're more than welcome to. Today is really about agreeing on what topics we want to put forward.
Through the Mayor, just the flying fox management. Is ALGA going to take any notice of that? But who owns them? Is the state or the government own it? It's not federal government. I don't think anyone does.
And that's part of the problem. And if you look at the recommendation on page 227, the motion calls for the Australian Local Government Association to lobby for a national, unit and community-minded approach to the solution and management of flying foxes.
State wants them to hand over the bills, do they?
Well,
and local government pick up the bills.
Did you want to say something?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a current federal inquiry happening along the eastern coast of Australia as to how they can best fund or put resources into managing flying foxes. So that inquiry has been ongoing. I believe there's a report due in about August this year for that inquiry to finalise itself. There is really no ownership over where the flying fox sits at the moment, besides that each state has their own environmental approach to dealing with it.
So the federal government's going to bundle it all in and make them uniform or something, are they?
Well, that's what we're calling for. Yeah.
We're going in the wrong direction with that, and the feds, we know what they'll do on the local level. You're only looking for the funding component from federal and us to manage that.
Well, I believe, through you, Mr. Mayor, and encourage General Manager General to speak up. That's part of the issue, is that this is a problem that does confront a lot of communities. And if you can achieve a national outcome or a unified outcome through ALGA successfully in lobbying, well, that will be the benefit of all those communities that have to manage flying foxes. It's really getting it on that national agenda to talk about what we're going to do with that.
Yeah, I think through you, Mr. Mayor, the important part is there's the obligation to have a flying fox management plan, essentially, if you're going to be undertaking any activities or providing any particular habitable areas for the flying fox. So while that's an obligation of local governments, we're certainly looking for that resourcing to come from the federal area to help support what those management plans look like in terms of operationalising any work that happens on the vehicle. So that's probably the biggest area around what many of the local governments are looking to get from this motion. So to get resource nationally, but look after the issue locally.
It's just, what may happen there is those successful with funding from the federal level push their colonies away from their regional levels into neighbouring regional districts and just push the issue on. Certainly needs a greater undertaking of that and understanding of existing colony sizes and how to manage them within their own area as well.
And that is a big part of what the actual inquiry is looking at. So the actual moving on is from one area to another is happening now, and that unified approach should hopefully reduce the occurrence of that. That's also a level of wishful thinking.
Right, councillor, so is there any other queries or otherwise about those other topics, or do you want to add to them? Or?
Would it be beneficial to put the Mobile Lake Spot program funding motion also to the Australian Local Government Association, considering it's a federal government funded program?
They already have.
There's
usually plenty of in there.
That's fine.
No, as in, there will be other councils with Mobile Lake Spot funding. It's actually a regular annual.
And what goes to Western Queensland will go on to state and then they go through the throws.
And there'll be some that go forward, council, through the Central Queensland Regional Organisation Councils as well.
Okay.
All right, well, people are happy with those, some are happy with those. And certainly encourage it, Councillor Brimble came second to Councillor McIndoe, and certainly encourage councillors if there is some wording and some other, I suppose you could say, strength to add to them, certainly make them, and we'll get those. What's the deadline, Ray?
I'll put a lot in tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, so.
Tomorrow?
Certainly for tonight for Alga, so have a good read of them tonight if you need to. So, all in favour? Against? Thank you. Right, the 16.2 is the actual WQLGA Association Conference, which is going to be in Emerald this year. 17th, that's not right, is it? The 17th and 19th, with the 18th to the 20th, isn't it?
17, 19.
Is it?
Isn't 19 the Saturday?
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
Well, I'll just confirm. 17th is a Thursday.
Yep, that's it.
All right, good. So I can present that as a license committee. It is quite straightforward, councillors, certainly recommending that there be a healthy representation from Central Highlands Regional Council, given that the event is being held on the eastern footprint of the member councils. It would be a good show of support to our western neighbours and also on those issues that are important in those regions. There's commonality as well. The report, as is usual, recognises the financial cost of attending conferences, and it identifies that there's budget capacity to support a healthy representation at that event. So the recommendation is that the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and/or councillors to be identified now, along with the CEO representing Central Highlands Regional Council of the Western Queensland Local Government Association Annual Conference, which is to be held in Emerald from the 17th to the 19th of May 2018. It's ironic though, I guess, that the Mayor has to be there because he is the President, and I guess I have to be there as his Secretary. So we're in that official capacity. But I think it's nice to have this recorded as a decision to council, along with the names of other councillors that are available and willing to attend.
I think it'd be nice if all local councillors had the opportunity to go while it's in our own patch. And, you know, get to know the other councillors in our region.
That'd be great.
Yeah. All council, while we don't record the detail in the resolution, I'll certainly be encouraging a number of the executive leadership team to attend sessions of that event because of its proximity.
I believe that we all councillors have the opportunity to attend when they can.
Moved by Councillor Brimble. Oh, sorry, Councillor Swan. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Moved by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor Swiper. Thank you. My apologies. All in favour? Against? Thank you. All right, now the next conference, which is 16.3, the Australian Local Government Association Conference, National General Assembly.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll present this report, and I might start with the content, some of the content of the National General Assembly. And if you'd like to follow, I'm in the program, and I'm on page 253, and that's a quick summary of the sessions that will be held. So I will come to Sunday, which is the Regional Cooperation and Development Forum very soon, but we'll start on the Assembly proper. There's some exciting sessions there. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's been invited to speak. There's a session on the Australian political landscape, a session on gender diversity in local government, a panel session on changing political culture, a panel session on balancing innovation and the public interest, and of course time dedicated to debate on motions that will go to the Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly. That's day one, that's the Monday. Tuesday, the eminent Bernard Salt will be presenting population and policy imperative. There's a panel session on building tomorrow's communities around livability, more debate on motions, followed by concurrent sessions, and there's their breakout sessions. 4 sessions, one's energy and climate change, secondly, arts and culture, number 3 is digital technology, and lastly, recycling and waste. The opposition leader, the Honourable Bill Shorten, has been invited to speak, and on Wednesday it culminates with the establishment of ALGA's election priorities, followed by a panel of mayors having a session on local government and the federal election, and a panel session entitled How to Create Resilient Local Communities. So that's all preceded by the Regional Cooperation and Development Forum, which is held on the Sunday, and that boasts a fairly impressive lineup of sessions too. It's on page 254. So Saul Eslake, leading Australian economist, is delivering a keynote address entitled Observations of Australian Economic Development Trends and Regional Impacts and Challenges. Dr. John McVeigh addresses the forum, followed by the State of the Regions launch, incorporating a snapshot of programs or initiatives that have benefited from regional or region-scale collaborations. That sounds very interesting. A workshop in the afternoon, a practical, fast-paced workshop applying tools to assist region-scale collaboration, metro and non-metro, led by collaboration for impact facilitators. And it concludes with an opposition address by Stephen Jones. And Council, we've now returned to the report. The recommendation is that we be represented at that annual assembly.
I'll nominate Councillor Syphon again for Mayor and CEO and Deputy.
We've got some issues with it, availability. Councillors.
Well, it's only been asked report to councillors to
Oh, sorry, I'll speak up further there. Typically, ALGA clashes with some other events. I'm not too sure. Right.
That's an ODA conference now. It's not so focused on economic development. It's changed completely. So excellent. Yeah. All right. Well, councillors, the recommendations there, Mayor, Deputy Mayor and or councillors.
Nominate Councillor Daniels.
Oh, Councillor Daniels wants to go, Councillor Syphon. So how are you going, Deputy? You all right to go?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. So we've got Councillor Page, Godwin Smith, Syphon and Daniels. And in the interest of Councillor Bell, Councillor Rolton is going to be a representative as well. We'll have to check with him, I suppose. Or I suppose in rotation, I know Councillor Rolton last year, Councillor Bell the year before. Perhaps Councillor Bell may be going anyhow, I don't know, or will be going. Yeah, okay. So look, I think in rotation, I suppose to keep numbers at a manageable level, we'll nominate these 4 councillors, and we'll check in with Councillor Rolton, Councillor Bell. If they want to go, or there's another nomination, we'll take that forward. We might nominate these 4. People happy with that?
Yep.
Moved by Councillor Nixon, seconded. Councillor Brindlecombe, all in favour? Yes, thank you. Right.
Is it a late report? We've got to close it.
We've got, sorry, yeah, Yeah, everyone has got that, haven't they? Got that late agenda item and mid report, okay?
Yeah.
And then we'll have our general business and closed session, Melanie, so after you get your award for sitting here for so long, you can obviously move for this. So, as was discussed this morning in Gerard's session there on the priorities, the recommendation there is for those 5 projects in the maturing infrastructure pipeline program moved forward. Councillor Nixon. Second by Councillor Daniels. Now, discussion before we get to the vote on this. Everyone's happy with those?
Yes, discussion.
Okay.
We had a
And
fair
that
discussion.
obviously, there is some future project for consideration in that report. Okay, people happy with that? All in favour? Against? Thank you.
I like the view, I'm sorry.
You're right. There's no wear and tear on your whatsoever there. All right, councillors, general business, before we go into closed session.
Through the chair to Daniel, I just want to ask a question really about the condition assessment process and replacement planning for our playgrounds within the Central Highlands. I asked this question on the back of I try and get, because I guess my demographic, I try and get around to different playgrounds with my family. And I went to one on the week and I would have to say I felt embarrassed by its condition, and I know that there are certainly a number that are really needing to be replaced. And when I say embarrassed by its condition, the grounds were tidy, the playground was just well and truly past its use by date, had even orange meshing around some parts of it because they were broken. So whether I'm very conscious of time, so whether Daniel wants to bring something back to communities, it may be a better space, but I'm just very concerned.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor Dennis, for bringing that up. We do systematic condition assessments on our infrastructure and our playgrounds, and we do have a maintenance schedule in place. I'll get some more details and make sure that I bring that back to the committee, steering committee, for everybody to understand where we're up to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Any other general business?
Well, I'd just like to note that what a great event was in Blackwater Saturday afternoon for the youth mental health afternoon. It was really, really well attended by young people, and the messages were really, really clear. And just a big thank you to the staff that participated in putting that all together. It was really, really great afternoon.
Thank you very much, Councillor Swighton. I think that's the pass on to thank you, Dennis.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I can just add to that, I'd like to acknowledge also our staff, because that event itself was a community-led event. So our staff really just supported the community members that were driving the event.
It was incredible.
Yeah. And if I can just indulge while we're talking about youth mental health, if anybody's interested in donating to a bull ride on the weekend, I'll send a link through shortly. We're trying to raise $6,000 for some first aid, mental health first aid training for about 70 of our community members, probably possibly half, 35 teachers and 35 community workers to go through that training.
Good luck with that, Daniel, and I hope you've got all your affairs in order. But I'm pleased you're taking them on. It might not be as easy as running through the streets with a nappy on.
You might need it yourself.
All right, no other general business, councillors?
I think
so. All right, well, can we move that we go into closed session? Thank you very much, Melanie Jent, for your presence today. All right, time moved by Councillor Godwin Smith, seconded by Councillor Daniels, so we move into closed session. All in favour? Against? Thank you. All right. Now, we have the airport construction